The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The human sat alone near his small fire watching the flames dance. He had been living on this alien planet for weeks, struggling every single day. Food was hard to find, water was harder, and the nights were always cold. He had learned to sleep lightly because danger was everywhere. Strange creatures moved in the shadows, and some of them hunted anything that breathed. But tonight something felt different. He heard it, a soft rustling sound, just beyond the light of the fire. His heart tightened. His hand went quickly to the old rifle resting by his side. He didn't move at first, only listened. The sound came again, slow, careful, like something trying not to be heard. The man narrowed his eyes, scanning the dark edges of the forest. He whispered to himself, "Not tonight. Please, not tonight." But he knew better. On this world, something always came. The fire crackled louder and the shadows shifted. His body tensed, every muscle ready. He had survived this long by trusting his instincts, and his instincts were screaming at him now. He rose slowly, lifting the rifle. The sound stopped. Silence fell heavy across the clearing. Even the insects seemed to pause. That silence was worse than the noise. It meant something was watching him, waiting. He stepped forward carefully, each foot pressing lightly against the dirt. His eyes searched the darkness. At first, nothing moved. Then he saw it. A small figure crouched near his supplies. For a moment his mind expected a beast. Sharp, teeth, claws, glowing eyes, but instead what he saw froze him in place. It was a girl. An alien girl. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and shining like silver. Her body was thin, too thin, like she hadn't eaten in days, and in her trembling hands, she clutched one of his food packs. The human's grip on the rifle tightened. His voice came out low and sharp. "Drop it." The alien girl flinched but didn't run. She looked at him, fear in her eyes, yet something else too, something stubborn. Her small mouth pressed tight, as if daring him to stop her. For a long moment, neither moved. The firelight flickered. Between them, the human's heart beat louder than the flames. He had expected a monster, but this was not a monster. She was just a child, or close to it, but she was not human. Her face was different, her body fragile, her hair silver white that shone in the dark. Still, her fear was the same. Her hunger was the same. And hunger made creatures dangerous. He steadied the rifle, ready if she tried to attack, but she didn't attack. She only held the food tighter, her thin shoulders shaking. The human took a step closer, his voice rough. "Why are you here?" No answer. The girl only stared, her chest rising fast. Her eyes darted from him to the forest, as if she feared something worse than him. The man frowned. He was no stranger to fear. He had lived with it since he crashed on this world. But the fear in her eyes was different. It was not only fear of hunger or death, it was fear of being hunted. The silence stretched long. Finally, she whispered something, so soft, he almost missed it. Her voice was weak, broken, but the words were clear. "Please." "Food." The human blinked, his mind racing. She spoke English. Not well, but enough. How could she know his language? Who was she? Why was she stealing from him instead of killing him like other creatures would? The fire popped, making them both jump. The girl crouched lower, clutching the stolen pack like a lifeline. The human kept his rifle steady. But something inside him shifted. This was not what he expected, not what he prepared for, and suddenly he realized something chilling. If this girl was here, if she was running and hiding, then someone or something might be chasing her, and if they were near, then he was already in danger. He took a deep breath, the barrel of his rifle pointing at her chest. His finger rested against the trigger, but his eyes searched hers, and what he saw made him pause. She was scared, yes, but not of him. She was scared of what was out there in the dark. The human's heart pounded harder. He whispered to himself, "What have you brought to my camp, girl?" The night was still, but he knew it would not stay that way for long. The alien girl did not move. Her thin fingers clutched the stolen food, her silver eyes locked on the human. The fire's glow painted her face in flickering shadows, making her look both fragile and dangerous. The human's rifle stayed aimed at her, but his finger pressed less firmly on the trigger now. Something about her silence unsettled him. She was not like the hunters he had fought before. She was not like the beast that tore flesh and bone in the night. She was something else. The human's mind raced. Why would she risk so much to steal food? Was she a scout for others or just a starving runaway? Her body looked weak, her clothes torn, her face hollow with hunger. But her eyes held something he couldn't ignore. Defiance. She looked too proud to beg, too desperate to leave. He lowered the rifle a little, not enough to make her safe, but enough to show he was thinking. "Why are you here?" he asked again, voice rough and cold. The girl tilted her head as if measuring him. Her lips parted and a soft sound escaped, but no words. Then she pulled the food closer to her chest like a shield. Her silver eyes glinted in the firelight. And for a moment the human thought he saw something else there, something deeper, fear mixed with trust. The human stepped closer, his boots crunching lightly on the dirt. The girl flinched but didn't run. Most thieves would flee into the mow. Dark, but not her. She stood her ground, trembling yet unbroken, that made him pause. He remembered battles years ago on Earth where only the strongest dared to hold their place against danger. She was not strong, not in body, but maybe in spirit. That spirit stirred something inside him, something he thought was buried slowly. The human lowered his rifle to his side, but his eyes stayed sharp, watching her every move. The girl blinked, surprised. Her grip on the food pack loosened just slightly, as if she could not believe she was still alive. "Eat," he said at last, his voice heavy with warning. "Eat, but if you try anything, I end it here." The girl hesitated, then tore the pack open with shaking hands. She ate fast, like a creature that had not tasted real food in days, maybe weeks. The human watched closely. Every bite she took seemed to fill the silence with strange weight. She ate as if the food might vanish, as if she feared it was only a dream. When she finally slowed, her breathing heavy, she looked up at him again. Her lips trembled, and she whispered a single word. "Thanks." The human froze. That word, that simple human word, spoken by an alien mouth. It cut through the night like a blade. "How do you know that?" he asked sharply. The girl lowered her eyes, not answering. Her silence spoke louder than words. She knew his language. She understood him. That meant something far bigger than hunger. The human's thoughts turned dark. Had her kind been watching him? Studying him? Was she part of some trap? He felt the urge to raise the rifle again, to end this mystery before it grew worse. But something inside stopped him. Maybe it was her trembling shoulders, or the way her small hands shook as she held the empty food pack. Maybe it was the memory of his own hunger when he first crashed on this cursed world. Whatever it was, it kept him still. The girl looked at him again, this time with a strange mix of courage and sorrow. Her silver eyes seemed older than her face, carrying a story he did not yet know. The fire hissed. A spark flew into the air. She flinched at the sound, glancing at the forest behind her. The human noticed the way her body tensed. She was afraid, not of him, but of what lay in the dark. He followed her gaze, scanning the trees. Shadows stretched long and deep, but nothing moved, not yet. The human lowered his voice, almost a growl. "Who is chasing you?" The girl stiffened, her lips pressed shut, but her silence was an answer in itself. Someone was hunting her, and now, by feeding her, he might have tied himself to her fate. The air grew colder, the fire crackled weakly. The human studied her. Once more, this strange thief who was not a thief. He had survived by trusting no one, by keeping his camp hidden and his rifle ready. Yet here she was, small, hungry, fragile, but carrying secrets that could burn the whole forest. He sighed, his voice low but firm. "You eat, you rest, but tomorrow you tell me everything." The girl did not answer. She only looked at him, eyes shining like the stars above. And in that silent gaze he felt the weight of something greater than both of them. Something was coming, and this alien child was only the beginning. The night stretched on, heavy and tense. The alien girl sat close to the fire now, though not too close. Her thin frame curled like a frightened animal, clutching the empty food pack in her hands. The human sat across from her, rifle resting. On his knees, eyes never leaving her, between them burned the weak flames, a fragile wall of light against the endless dark. Neither spoke, but silence itself spoke louder than words. The girl avoided his stare, her eyes flicking to the forest. Every few seconds, the human noticed, and each time her gaze darted outward, his own hand tightened on the rifle. It was as if she expected something, as if danger was already on its way, and that unsettled him more than any noise in the trees. At last, the human broke the silence. "You understand me?" he said slowly. "You spoke before. Not much, but you knew the words." The girl's lips trembled, but no answer came. Instead, she hugged her knees, pulling them close to her chest. Her silver hair fell forward, shining faintly in the firelight. The human leaned forward, his voice sharper. "Who taught you my language?" Still nothing, only the sound of crackling flames. The human sighed, the weight of exhaustion pressing on him, but giving up was not in his nature. He pulled another small piece of bread from his pack and tossed it near her feet. The girl froze, staring at it. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then slowly she reached for it, her thin hands shaking. She picked it up, but before eating, her eyes flicked back to him as if waiting for permission. "Eat," he said firmly. She did, chewing carefully this time. No longer desperate like before. The human studied her face as she ate. Her cheeks were hollow, her skin too pale. Her body told the story of someone who had been running, starving, hiding. But her eyes, those silver eyes, were different. They were sharp, watchful, holding secrets she was too afraid to share. He had seen that look in soldiers once back on Earth. It was the look of someone carrying knowledge too heavy for their years. After finishing the bread, the girl wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. She looked at him, her lips parted slightly. At last, in a weak, trembling voice, she whispered, "Danger and close." The human froze. The word was clear, the meaning undeniable. His heart began to pound as he scanned the tree line again. "What danger?" he asked quickly. The girl shook her head, pressing her hands against her ears, as if even saying more was too dangerous. The fire popped, sending sparks upward. The girl flinched, her whole body jerking like a hunted deer. The human felt a wave of unease wash over him. She was not just afraid, she was broken by fear. Someone or something had hunted her long before tonight. And now, by giving her food, by letting her stay near his fire, he had invited that danger into his camp. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had lived through battles, ambushes, crashes, and storms. But this was different. This was an enemy he could not yet see. He leaned closer to her, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Who is coming?" Her silver eyes glistened, reflecting the fire. And in that fragile moment she whispered again, "My people." The human's stomach dropped. Her people. That meant she wasn't just a thief, not just a runaway. She was part of something much larger. And if her people were dangerous, then he was now marked. He looked at her, really looked this time. Her face young but tired, her eyes carrying truths she dared not speak. He felt the weight of her silence. It was not just fear-keeping, her quiet. It was survival. The human sat back, staring into the fire. If her people were near, then his camp was no longer safe. He should drive her away, tell her to go before they both died, but something stopped him. Perhaps it was the way she clung to the bread, or the way her voice cracked when she whispered, "Danger, close." He had seen lies before. This was not a lie. The wind picked up, rustling the trees. The girl hugged her knees tighter, trembling. The human adjusted his rifle, his eyes narrowing at the darkness. The forest seemed alive, breathing, waiting. Every shadow looked sharper, every sound louder. He could almost feel unseen eyes watching, circling, waiting for the right moment. He turned back to her. "You stay close to the fire," he said firmly. His tone was harsh, but beneath it was something else, a promise. She looked at him, her silver eyes softening just slightly. It was not trust, not yet, but it was the start of something. The human knew the night was far from over. He knew danger was coming. But for the first time since his crash on this world, he was not alone, and that was both a comfort and a curse. The fire burned lower as the long night dragged on. The human added another branch, sparks flying into the cold air. The alien girl sat silently across from him, her silver eyes reflecting the flames. Her thin arms were wrapped around her knees, her small body shaking. The human had seen fear before, but hers carried something heavier, a weight of secrets. He leaned forward, his voice steady but sharp. "You said danger, you said your people, what do they want?" The girl flinched, her gaze darting to the forest as if even the trees were listening. She shook her head slowly, pressing her lips together, but the human had no patience left. He slammed the butt of his rifle into the dirt, the sound echoing through the night. "Speak," he growled, "or I send you back to them." Her silver eyes widened. Her breath quickened. She looked like a cornered animal, but finally, words slipped from her mouth. "They will take you," she whispered, voice trembling. "They will take all of you." The human froze, his grip on the rifle tightening. "What do you mean, all of us?" The girl hugged herself tighter, her thin shoulders shaking. "Humans," she said softly. "Your kind. They are in danger." The human's chest tightened, anger burning in his stomach. He had known this world was hostile, but her words carried something far larger. This was not just about food or survival. This was about Earth itself. He leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Explain," he demanded. Her lips trembled, her voice cracked. "They study you, they fear you, and they want to use you." The fire popped, the sound like a gunshot in the silence. The human's heart pounded louder than the flames. He felt a chill creep down his spine as her words sank in. Her people studied humans, feared them, and wanted to use them. That meant this was not an accident, not chance. His crash here, his survival, her sudden appearance, maybe none of it was random. "Why fear us?" he asked, his voice lower now, more dangerous. The girl shook her head, her silver hair falling across her face. "You are different," she whispered. "Humans. They fight. They rise again when broken, my people. We cannot." Her voice cracked as tears formed in her glowing eyes. "They want to take that from you. They want to break it before it grows too strong." The human felt his throat tighten. He remembered Earth, the wars, the struggles, the endless fights. Humans were stubborn, hard to kill, always pushing back, and now, even on another world, that same spirit made them a target. The girl's words carried truth, a truth that cut deep. Her people were afraid of humanity, not because humans were powerful, but because humans refused to bow. The human stood slowly, pacing near the fire. He felt the weight of her revelation pressing on his chest. His eyes flicked to the forest, searching for movement. If her people were near, if they already knew she had spoken, then he was no longer just a survivor. He was a target. He turned, back to her sharply. "Why tell me this?" Her gaze lifted, meeting his with trembling courage. "Because I ran," she said softly. "I ran from them. I saw what they did. I could not stay." Her words struck him like a hammer. She had betrayed her own kind. That meant she was hunted, not only because she was weak or hungry, but because she carried dangerous knowledge her people would kill to silence. The human's mind raced with questions, but one burned brighter than the rest. What will they do if they find me? Her silver eyes darkened, her voice almost breaking. They will kill you. Then they will use your world. They will take it piece by piece until nothing is left. The human's chest ached with fury. He had feared death before. But this was more. This was about Earth. About every man and woman still alive there. Her words painted a future of chains and ashes, and she was the only reason he now knew the truth. The firelight flickered, shadows dancing across their faces. The girl's hands shook as she whispered again. You must not let them find you. You must fight, or all will be lost. The human's jaw tightened. For weeks he had fought only for himself. Every day was about finding food, finding water, staying alive. But now, her words lit a new fire in his heart. He was no longer just surviving for himself. He was surviving for Earth. The night wind blew cold, carrying strange sounds through the trees. The girl's head snapped toward the noise, fear flashing in her eyes. They are close, she whispered, her voice breaking. The human raised his rifle, his heart pounding. Whatever her people wanted, whatever they feared, it was coming for him now. And he knew one thing with burning certainty. He would not bow, not to her people, not to anyone. The shocking truth had been revealed, and the war for survival had only just begun. The fire was almost gone. Only glowing embers remained. The human sat with his rifle tight in his grip, his eyes fixed on the dark trees. The alien girl crouched low beside him, her silver eyes wide, her breath sharp and quick. The night air was heavy, too heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Then he heard it, a sound that did not belong to the forest, not the wind, not the insects, not the crack of branches under some beast. This sound was different, steady, mechanical, almost like a pulse. The human skin prickled, every nerve on edge. He had faced danger before, but this was something else. This was organized, controlled, deliberate. The girl clutched his sleeve suddenly, her small fingers shaking. They are here, she whispered, her voice weak with terror. The human turned his head slowly, his eyes narrowing. What are they? He asked, his voice low. She swallowed hard, her silver hair falling into her face. Hunters, she said. They do not stop. They do not fail. The human's stomach tightened. Hunters, machines, or soldiers, it didn't matter. What mattered was they were coming for her, and now for him too. He shifted his position, crouching low, moving away from the faint glow of the fire. Stay close, he whispered, and stay quiet. The girl nodded quickly, pressing herself into the shadows beside him. The forest grew louder, footsteps, heavy and in rhythm, closing in from more than one direction. The human scanned the tree line, his soldier's mind calculating. They were surrounding the camp, tightening the circle. He cursed under his breath. The girl's people were clever. They knew how to trap prey, but he was not prey. Not now. Not ever. The human raised his rifle, aiming into the dark. Through the trees, faint lights appeared, glowing blue and cold. Shadows moved between the trunks, tall, armored figures advancing with precision. The girl trembled beside him, whispering in fear. They will see us, they will hear us, we cannot fight them. The human glanced at her sharply. We can, he said, his voice like steel. We will. The first figure stepped into the clearing, tall, armored from head to toe, its eyes glowing like frozen fire. It scanned the camp, the remains of the fire, the empty food packs. Its movements were precise, unnatural, like a machine wrapped in flesh. The human held his breath, his finger steady on the trigger. If it came closer, he would strike, but he also knew shooting one would bring the others running, and the forest was crawling with them. The girl pressed her face against her knees, muffling her breath. The human could feel her fear, sharp and heavy like ice, but he did not let it touch him. Fear was death, and he had not survived this long by giving in to it. He waited, calm, silent, eyes locked on the hunter. The figure moved past the fire, slow and careful. It bent down, lifting one of the broken food packs, examining it with cold interest. The human clenched his teeth, his pulse racing. Every second the hunter lingered was another chance to be found. The girl squeezed his arm, whispering so faint he almost missed it. They can smell fear, do not move. The human almost laughed at the cruel irony. He was no stranger to fear, but he had long ago learned how to hide it. His body stayed still, his breath low, his eyes sharp. He was a soldier, a survivor, and no alien hunter would see him tremble. Suddenly, another voice echoed through the forest, cold and sharp. They are close. Do not stop until you find them. The girl stiffened, her body shaking. She knew that voice, and the human could see it in her eyes. It was not just any hunter. It was someone she feared most. Her pursuer, her master, the one she had escaped. The hunters spread out, their glowing eyes sweeping the clearing. The human pulled the girl closer, whispering into her ear, "When I move, you follow. No sound, no hesitation." Her eyes widened, fear and trust mixing. "Where will we go?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Anywhere they are not," he answered. The moment stretched. The hunters turned their heads, their armor glinting in the dim light. The human's muscles tightened like coiled steel. He counted their steps, their angles, their line of sight. Every detail mattered. Every mistake could end them. At last he saw it. An opening, a gap between two patrols. Small, dangerous, but enough. He gripped the girl's arm, his whisper sharp as a blade. "Now!" They moved, slipping through the trees like shadows. The girl's breaths came fast and sharp, but she followed. The human's boots pressed silent against the earth, each step careful, controlled. Behind them, the hunters' voices grew louder. "They are near. Find them." The human did not look back. He pushed forward, deeper into the forest. The girl stumbled, but he held her steady, never slowing. Every sound, every movement, every shadow, pressed against him. The hunt had begun and they were the prey. But deep inside, as the cold night swallowed them, the human's resolve burned hotter than ever. They might be hunters, they might be many. But he was human, and humans did not run forever. The forest swallowed them whole. The human pushed forward, dragging the alien girl with him, his rifle gripped tight in his free hand. Behind them came the heavy rhythm of armored footsteps, the hunters moving with cold precision. Their voices cut through the night like blades, sharp commands in a language the human did not know. But he understood the meaning. They were closing in. Branches whipped against his arms as he forced a path through the thick undergrowth. The girl stumbled, her thin legs trembling, but he kept her steady. "Faster," he hissed. "Don't stop." She gasped for air, but nodded, her silver hair flying in the dark. Her eyes darted to the shadows around them, as if expecting death to leap from every tree. The hunters were skilled, their glowing eyes sweeping the forest, their movements silent and efficient. The human knew soldiers when he saw them. These were no wild beasts, no desperate scavengers. These were trained killers, and they were hunting. With purpose, a sudden flash of blue light cut through the trees. The human shoved the girl down just as a beam of energy tore past. It hit a tree trunk, exploding bark and fire into the night. The girl cried out, covering her ears. The human grabbed her wrist, pulling her to her feet. "Move!" he barked, his voice hard. "They've seen us." They ran, weaving through the forest, the hunters' lights chasing them like cold stars. The human's breath burned in his chest, but his mind stayed sharp. Every sound, every movement, every path was measured. He had been hunted before, on battlefields far from this world, and he knew the truth. Survival meant turning the hunt against the hunter. He dragged the girl toward a narrow ravine. The ground dipped sharply, rocks slick with moss and water. "Careful," he warned, guiding her down. They slid into the shadows, hidden for a moment from the glowing eyes above. The hunter's footsteps thundered closer, their voices echoing through the forest. The girl pressed against him, trembling, her breath shallow. "They will find us," she whispered. The human's jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the ravine. "Not if I find the way first," he muttered. He spotted a narrow tunnel between the rocks, just wide enough to crawl. Without hesitation, he pushed her forward. "In there," he ordered. "Move fast." She hesitated, eyes wide with fear. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind," he said firmly. She swallowed her fear and crawled in, her thin frame slipping into the shadows. The human followed, his rifle clutched tight, his body scraping against the cold stone. Above them, hunters spread out, their voices sharp. The human held his breath as one passed just feet overhead. The glowing eyes scanned the ravine. Pausing for a long moment, the human's heart thundered, sweat sliding down his face, the hunter's head tilted, listening. Then it moved on, its footsteps fading into the distance. Only then did the human breathe again. They crawled deeper. Through the tunnel, the stone walls closing in tight. The girl's breathing echoed ahead of him, fast and frightened. He kept his own slow, steady, forcing calm into his chest. At last, the tunnel opened into another part of the forest, darker, quieter. The girl collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. The human crouched beside her, scanning the area. No glowing lights, no footsteps, no voices. For now they were safe, but only for now. The girl looked at him, tears shining in her silver eyes. "You cannot win," she whispered. "They are too many, too strong." The human stared at her, his face hard as stone. "You're wrong," he said coldly. "They bleed, and if they bleed, I can fight them." She shook her head, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. They will never stop. Not until you are gone." The human leaned closer, his voice like iron. "Then I'll make sure they stop for good." He checked his rifle, reloading with quick, practiced movements. Every click of metal echoed with promise. The girl watched him, her fear shifting into something else. A flicker of belief, fragile but real. She had seen warriors before, but not. Like him, he was human, stubborn, relentless, unbroken. And for the first time she wondered if maybe, just maybe, they could survive. The forest wind whispered through the trees, carrying the hunters' voices once more. They were still searching, their glow cutting faintly through the distance. The human crouched low, his eyes sharp, his mind already calculating. He had escaped death before, and he would do it again. But this time, he was not alone. This time, he carried more than his own life. He carried the fragile hope of a girl who had betrayed her people. And maybe, the fragile hope of Earth itself. The hunters were closing in. The escape had bought them only moments. The night was far from over, and the human knew. As he tightened his grip on the rifle, the real fight was only just beginning. The night pressed heavy on the forest. The human and the alien girl crouched in the shadows of a broken cliff, the glowing eyes of the hunters sweeping the distance. The chase had slowed, but the danger had not passed. Every sound, every whisper of the wind carried the threat of discovery. The human's rifle rested across his knees, his eyes sharp and unblinking. The girl sat close, shivering, her silver eyes fixed on the ground. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the sound of their breathing filled the silence. At last, the girl lifted her head, her voice soft but filled with weight. "You should have left me," she whispered. "You should have let them take me." The human turned to her sharply, anger flashing in his eyes. "I don't abandon people," he growled. "Not on Earth, not here." Her lips trembled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "If you protect me, they will never stop hunting you. They will hunt until you are gone, and then they will take your world." The human's chest tightened, his jaw clenched. He had already suspected this, but hearing it spoken aloud made the truth burn hotter. His voice was low, steady, dangerous. "Then you better tell me everything, because if I'm fighting for Earth, I need to know what we're up against." The girl closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength. When she opened them, her gaze was steady, though filled with sorrow. "My people, they were not always this way," she began slowly. "Long ago they searched for knowledge, for peace, for survival. But something changed. They learned a truth that broke them." Her voice grew colder. "They discovered humans." The human frowned, confusion flickering in his eyes. We've never even been to your world, he muttered. The girl shook her head quickly. No, but they watched you from far away. Long before you knew, they studied your wars, your pain, your struggles. They saw how you suffered and yet rose again, always rising. Her voice trembled, and they feared it. The human's breath caught in his throat. Fear, her people advanced and powerful. Feared humans, not for weapons, not for numbers, but for something deeper. The girl leaned closer, whispering as if the trees might betray her words. They cannot rise again. Not like you. When they fall, they stay broken. When they lose, they never recover, but you fight, you heal, you hope. That hope is the one thing they cannot understand, the one thing they cannot control. The human stared at her, the fire of realization burning in his chest. That was the truth, the final truth. Humanity was dangerous, not because of power, but because of spirit. Because no matter the odds, no matter the wounds, humans refused to bow. Her people had seen it, and they feared it, and now they wanted to crush it before it could spread. The girl's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "They will not stop until your hope is gone, until Earth is silent, until every human is broken or dead." Her words hung heavy in the cold night. The human felt fury rise inside him, hot and sharp. He gripped his rifle tighter, his voice a promise. "Then they've already lost, because you can't break what refuses to die." The girl blinked, her tears falling. In that moment, she saw something in him she had never seen. In her people, not fear, not despair, but fire, a flame that no darkness could smother. She leaned closer, her voice shaking but filled with fragile belief. Maybe you are the answer. Maybe humans are the ones who can stop them." The forest groaned with distant movement, the hunters still searching. The human rose slowly, scanning the darkness, his voice firm. "Then we fight. Not just for me. Not just for you, but for Earth, for everyone." The girl stared at him, her fear slowly giving way to something stronger. Trust. It was small, fragile, but real. The human lifted his rifle, his silhouette tall against the faint starlight. His voice cut through the night, low and unshakable. "They think we're prey, but they're wrong. Humans don't bow. Humans don't break. Humans fight." The girl stood beside him, her small figure trembling but no longer hiding. She whispered the words like a vow. "Then I will fight too." The hunters' voices echoed again, closer now. The human steadied his weapon, his eyes locked on the shadows. The girl's revelation burned in his chest. He finally understood why she had come, why she had risked everything. She had not just stolen food, she had brought the truth. And with that truth, a new war had begun. The final truth was clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the spark, and that spark could set the galaxy on fire.